Alright, ladies and gents, grab your tea, grab your biscuits, and get comfortable, because today we're going to be talking about Empire of Storms. Empire of Storms is a 2016 fantasy fiction novel written by Sarah J. Maas. It is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. It's preceded by Queen of Shadows and followed by Tower of Dawn. Just a little disclaimer here, this review will have spoilers in it, so if you don't want spoilers, I would click away now, but if you don't mind spoilers, continue watching. So without further ado, let's dive into the review. Things got heated, heavy, explosive, and insane in Empire of Storms. So in this novel, we travel back to Terrasen with our heroes, where we meet the Lords of Terrasen, and one of them, who's a pretty old guy who's got a serious chip on his shoulder, tells Aelin that he does not recognize her as the Queen because she hasn't really done anything Queen-like since the whole fall, and he says to her, go find some allies to help us fight this war, and then I might consider you as Queen. So that's kind of what Empire of Storms is all about. As well, Aelin's got this kind of side mission that she needs to go do. That is, she's got to go find some sort of lock to lock the Valg away and essentially send them back to their realm. The overall pacing of the plot, really, really good. It's kickstarted with some action points, and then throughout the story, key action scenes keep the plot's pace really, really steady, and it keeps it really, really engaging, which is what I actually loved about Empire of Storms. This is definitely the first Throne of Glass novel which has had the most action for me, and it's been action which has been intrinsically tied to the plot and our character's journey. Speaking of action scenes, I do have a favorite, and that would have to be Lysandra versus the Sea Wyverns. How cool was that scene? There were a lot of moments where the descriptions were kind of hinting that she was going to shift into a sea dragon, and I was just waiting for that moment to happen, and then it did happen. My inner filmmaker was jumping up and down and squealing with delight after I read that chapter. Inside, my inner filmmaker was just going, make it, turn that chapter into a short film. It doesn't even matter if it makes sense, just make that one action point into a short film. It'll be CGI heavy, but it doesn't matter because it was amazing. Another part of the plot and a reveal and a little bit of character development as well that I absolutely loved came about on page 163, and that was such a hell yes moment for me, and that is when Manon Blackbeak turned around and pointed her sword at her grandmother and just said, nope, I'm not killing my second, I'm gonna kill you instead. That was incredible. I have been waiting for Manon to break away from her grandmother since she was first introduced. I thought it was such an important part of the story, and it was such an important part of Manon's character development as well. So those would be my two favorite scenes from this entire novel. The plot of Empire of Storms was very much like an adventure. I felt that we were truly going on an adventure with our main heroes, and that is what kept me engaged and hooked throughout the entire novel. Yep, it really ramped up in Empire of Storms, that's for certain. The main thing I'm glad about is we finally get to explore Aelin's home continent a bit more, because we are going on this massive adventure, and we're going to places that have been previously mentioned in other novels, but this time when they're mentioned, we actually get to go there and explore them. My favorite part of this world? Skulls Bay. I love pirates, they're a great old time. That was a really, really interesting part of the story, and I loved journeying there and experiencing that part of the world. It's very different to anything else we've experienced so far, because we've been on mainland for most of it, in massive cities or in the woods. But this time we get to go to some islands and deal with some pirates, and I really, really love that because I had such a nostalgic moment thinking about Pirates of the Caribbean. Another thing that really added to the world building for me was when Aelin visits this small little town whose name currently escapes me, but she goes to a temple where there's loads of drawings on the wall of sea dragons, and that's when Brannanon appears to her in spirit form, and they sit down and they have a little chat. That was really nice. Not just the chat between Brannanon and Aelin, because I was kind of wondering when something like that would happen, considering he's mentioned significantly throughout this entire series, but just the temple itself was just really lovely. Aelin cleans everything up by sending her fire through it, and all these amazing drawings are then depicted, stories written on walls, and I was like, that's cool. The world building in this novel really did draw me in. I think that's due to the fact that there was more time dedicated to describing the areas where our heroes were, why they were there, little historical details about each sort of area that we travel to is dripped in through conversation or a character's inner thoughts, so it flowed really, really nicely, and the novel as a whole just flows really nicely as well. So 10 out of 10 for world building, really. We have to start this section with our girl Manon Blackbeak. Not only does she kind of, you know, stick it to her grandmother and say, I don't want to be with you anymore, we find out her heritage and who she actually is. This girl is a queen. I just did not see that coming at all. I thought she was just going to be a standard witch who just, you know, defects and takes her 13 with her. No, 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 she's a queen and she deserves no less, to be honest. That was such a nice character reveal and definitely pushed Manon's character development forward so much, because at first she doesn't want to believe it, she kind of wants to ignore it, but by the end of the novel I think she's not fully embraced that part of her heritage, but she's definitely coming to terms with it and knows that this is something that she will have to face eventually. And she finally joins up with Aelin and her ragtag bunch of heroes. There's this one scene where Aelin and Manon ask each other what their sword names are, and that was just brilliant. We're in a dark, dingy cavern, and here's our two lead female heroes comparing sword names. Gives you a little bit of a laugh, and it was just really, really sweet. Lysandra, wow, she has changed so much since we first met her, because when we first meet her, she's just this prostitute, but now she's a badass shape-shifting warrior that is learning all these different forms to be able to help her friends in this mission. She's become so much more than what she was in the beginning, and it's really nice to see that from her. Also, she's so different as well. You know, we've got magic users, we've got fae, we've got humans, we've got witches, and then along comes Lysandra with a shapeshifter, and it's her fighting style which keeps her really, really interesting for me. So she's another character that I really, really do love as well. Ah, Dorian. I feel so bad for this guy, and I feel so bad for hating on him as much as I have in the past, because Dorian now has this little soft spot in my heart, really. He's been through so much over the course of the last two novels that I just want to give him a hug and tell him everything will be okay. He's doing a good job. I really, really like his character now. He's probably one of my favorite male characters, just because he's becoming his own self now, and that's what I'm really, really liking. In the beginning, to me, he was just a spoiled prince. Now he's realizing that he can't be that spoiled, protected prince anymore. He's got to embrace who he is as king. He needs to learn how to control his magic. He needs to explore what his magic can do. His magic is so interesting because it's different and not really fully explained, but that's okay. Everyone keeps referring to Dorian's magic as raw magic, so that to me kind of says that there's endless possibilities with what he could do with it. So definitely interested to see how Dorian's going to be pushing his magic and how he's going to be developing that. In this one, Lorcan and Elodie start traveling together, and their chapters are kind of merged into one, and they start this whole journey themselves to go and find Aelin and her group. I like Elodie, I think she's really, really cool. Lorcan, he's a kind of a funny guy. I don't really take him too seriously because he seems to take himself way too seriously, so I can't really. They're sort of meeting up and journeying together. They were kind of forced to, they didn't really have a choice. There is one thing I didn't like about Elodie and Lorcan, and that was the romance. Did it really have to be there? Probably not. Was it there? Yes. Personally, I felt that Elodie and Lorcan could have had a much better relationship if they had stayed friends, or if Lorcan kind of became like a mentor to her. I think that would have been a bit more interesting, because there are so many relationships in this series that this one question kind of popped into my head while I was reading Empire Storms, and that was, can no one in this series be single? I get it. We love romance. I'm all for romance in YA fantasy, but there is such a thing as too much. Well, I can definitely say I thoroughly enjoyed the writing in Empire of Storms. It was descriptive, it was hooking, it was engaging, it made me cry at one point. The chapter just after Aelin kind of blasts away all these flying creatures with this epic explosion of magic, and yes, she is the queen of the wildfire, absolutely. And then Lorcan and Elodie kind of meet up with her little group, and poor Elodie is kind of lying on the floor after having her arm just ripped off, but she is being healed, so it's all good. And it's the first thing that Aelin says to her after falling to her knees. She just says, "You look so much like your mother." That had me. I was in tears from that line, and the whole conversation between Aelin and Elodie that continues after that, that was some heart-wrenching stuff. Another part of the writing which I really enjoyed, the naval battle at the end. What a way to end a novel. Let's just have a massive naval battle between everyone that Aelin's managed to get together and Queen Maeve. Queen Maeve I really don't like. She really annoys me, but I feel that there's something about her which we don't know yet. The naval battle at the end is truly epic, and it's huge, and there's a lot of characters that we need to follow in the battle. We namely follow our heroes, obviously. I was a little bit cautious going into that final third act because I thought that it would get a bit too jarring because there are so many different people that we're following, but I was pleasantly surprised because the entire battle, the way that it's written, just flows so nicely. All the chapters kind of link together really well. Lysandra is still kicking ass in her sea dragon form, and then it's in her ghost leopard form. So I really enjoyed the third act, but Queen Maeve just had to show up and ruin everything. I didn't like the ending of Empire of Storms. That is the only thing that upset me for this entire novel. I was really enjoying it. Plot, love it. Pacing, brilliant. World building, 10 out of 10. Characters, oh, hear me out. So Aelin has secretly been gathering all these allies to her by sending out all these messages to everyone that she ever encountered during her years as Selena Sardothian the Assassin, which is really cool, because I was wondering when she was going to utilize her past to help her present and her future, and it finally happened in Empire of Storms, and I was like, cool, yeah, love it. However, when all the allies turn up on the beach, it's a really epic moment. Like, oh my god, look at all these allies just rocking up. How the hell did they know to get there? Is this some sort of scheme that Aelin's been cooking up for a while? And yes it is. Our Queen of the Wildfire is not there to greet said allies and reveal to her court what she's been doing. That, for me, kind of made all the allies turning up on that beach fall really flat. And then Lysandra comes along in Aelin's form and starts lying to everyone. Not a fan of that, because the last thing you want to be doing in a war is lying to your allies, especially because everyone is now going to be expecting Aelin to be burning these Valdemon armies away, and she's not, because she's currently chained up in an iron box with Maeve and some sadistic fairy who likes torturing people for kicks. Wasn't a fan. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the ending of Empire of Storms. I know why Aelin is sacrificing herself. I know why she's going with Maeve. I feel that she might also have some personal reasons for doing that as well, because she now knows that her life force is essentially the cost to make this lock and send all the bad demons away. I kind of feel like she just gave up way too easily when Maeve arrived, but maybe that's because she doesn't actually want to sacrifice herself to forge the lock, and she's thinking going with Maeve will prevent her from doing that and Dorian will take her place, maybe? Who knows? Maybe that's what Aelin was thinking. That's kind of what it came across to me as, but we shall see in the future novels. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my review on Empire of Storms. Let me know down below what you thought, because I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say. I gave Empire of Storms a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. I would have given it a 5 out of 5, but the ending just kind of ruined it for me. As always, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It really does mean a lot to me. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye!